Okay, so since we're working in stop motion, we are most likely going to be working in image sequences. There are other ways to, I guess, do stop motion. That would be if you were in After Effects and creating separate shapes or moving your shapes one frame at a time. But probably you're doing some sort of stop motion photography where you're either using real people, Legos, matchsticks, etc. So I have an example here of, I'll just open a few shots of this stop motion demo project that I created. So if we open it up in preview and we step through the images one at a time, you can see what we're doing here. So cameras name files generically, such as img_4375.jpg, and then this goes on for the entire numerical sequence of the photos. It's extremely important that your images are sequentially numbered for this to work in After Effects, or else it won't work. So, for example, if I was missing one of my photos in here, After Effects will probably stop and only bring in this group of photos in a simple method. Just to be clear, I'm going to undo that and bring that back. Just to be clear, we are not going to bring these in one at a time and put them on our timeline. You can do that, but it's very time consuming, and After Effects will do this for you. If you do happen to have a missing sequence in your images, or a missing number, you can go through and rename them if you want, or there's a free application for the Mac called Name Changer. We'll open that up here. And so Name Changer allows you to take all your files, drag them into the original file name section, change this to sequence, and we're going to call this stop motion dash. We'll make it a 3-digit number. We're going to replace the entire file name so you can see this, our changes taking place right here. Also under options, we need to hide extensions. That way it doesn't overwrite the JPEG part. And then we click rename. And it batch renamed all 75 files within a second. And here we see all those files renamed. All right, so that's one option of batch renaming your files. So let's bring these into After Effects. So in After Effects, I can, I could, if I wanted to, drag these in and drop them. But what that's going to do is it's going to drag in each JPEG separately. And I could drag them out onto my timeline if I wanted to. And so this is just one still image. I'll scrub through and just so you can see that. So what I could do is I could make one frame, drag another one out, make another frame, etc., so that it simulates my motion. But that seems like a lot of work that we don't necessarily have to do. So instead, I'm going to go to File, Import, File, just single file. We don't want multiple files. Click on the very first image in my sequence. So in this case, it would be stop motion 000. Make sure that your sequence is checked. So this will change if it's JPEG sequence because these are JPEG images. You can also have GIF sequences or PNG sequences as well. And click Open. And so as long as all of your files are named sequentially from the first number to the last image that you have, it will create a clip for you. Drop that into our timeline. And so now everything's stitched together. And we've got our stop motion. But one thing we need to be aware of, so I'm going to undo this so it's not in my timeline anymore. You can see here in my project panel here under frame rate, So we've got our composition. This is what we're building everything in, and it's set to 15 frames per second. And it brought in my stop motion animation at 30 frames a second. Well, we don't want that. So if we planned out that we were going to have 300 images for, I guess, 450 images for 30 seconds worth of, is that 30 seconds? Yeah, 450 images for 30 seconds worth of video. At 30 frames a second in a 15 frame per second, that's going to be, it's going to half the size of our animation, so we don't want that. So what we are going to do is, with our piece highlighted in the project area, go to File, Interpret Footage, Main, and then under Frame Rate, change Assume this frame rate to 15 frames per second. Click OK. And so now when I drag it down here into my timeline, it's twice as long as it was. And butt that up right to 0. So now it's a little bit larger than it needs to be, so we're going to change our viewport window down, and we get the transform handles here, so we can transform this to whatever we want. I want my composition just to be cropped in on his hands, so looks like I've got a little space at the bottom. Move that down a little bit. Maybe center it up a little bit more. Alright, so then I'm going to go back to fit up to 100%. So my piece here is only 4 seconds, and this is for demo purposes. But I don't want to export more than this when I export my movie, because it's just going to export all this black space. So we've got this little orange work area end option over here at the right-hand side. So I'm going to drag that back. See, that was set at 30 seconds, which is what we set up our composition duration to be at the very beginning. If you needed to change that duration, meaning if you needed to add more, you can go up to the composition menu, composition settings, and then add more time if you need to. And then we'll zoom out here so we can see our whole timeline, and now you can go out to 45 seconds. You'll still need to move that workspace end out, but for this purpose we only want these first 4 seconds. So I'm gonna, while holding shift, it'll snap to the edge, so now it's only going to export what I have. Actually, it's going to export 1 frame more. So back that up a little bit more. There we go. So we zoom in, and that's how you bring in an image sequence.